welcome everybody. My name is Anna Bryce, and I am the VP of Communications at the AMA Phoenix. We are thrilled to have everybody join us, and we are thrilled to have Maria Lipp join us today as our speaker. Real quick, I just want to thank our sponsors, who you can see on the screen right now. In particular, I would like to thank Taylor Wellman, who I just mentioned, who is our host, and she is the founder of Financial Potion. If you are in the need of video work, please consider giving Taylor a call. And we would also like to thank our supporters. These are the companies who employ the people who are on the AMA Phoenix board. Our board is a bunch of hardworking people. We put a lot of time and effort into what we do here at the AMA, and we are thrilled to welcome you here for the webinar. And I'm going to get right into introducing Maria because we've got a lot of things to talk to. Maria is a great friend of the AMA Phoenix. She was previously our design sponsor for a different year, and we are thrilled to be able to grab her to speak at one of our events. Maria has a great background here in Phoenix. She has worked for the Arizona Republic's Hispanic Solutions team. She has also worked for NBC Universal's Telemundo brand. She's worked for KPNX and Geo Digital. She has helped these companies work with clients such as Arizona Milk Producers, our beloved Arizona Cardinals, Earnhardt Automotive, Coors Light, and Crescent Crown Distributing, for example. In 2016, she launched her own venture, Spotlight Media Services, which is a multicultural marketing and advertising firm. And as you'll see in her presentation, why there is such a need for these kinds of firms. The numbers are really interesting. So without any further delay, I just would like to introduce Maria Lipp, the founder of Spotlight Media Services. Hi, Maria, and thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak to our audience.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to share ideas today. I know that a lot of us have been exposed to all of the different data and all of the different opportunities that are out there with regards to the Hispanic market. So our time today is going to be spent just, primarily reviewing some of that information, but as well, going a little bit deeper into how to use it and how to actually make it work for us, right? So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Yes? Okay, wonderful. Great. Great. So as Anna mentioned, I am Maria Lipp. I am the founder of Spotlight Media Services. All of the testimonials that you see here will, probably be based on real life. So I'm just sharing some of the knowledge that I have gathered over my 13 years in working in Hispanic media with businesses looking to think outside the box to find different opportunities for their business. So today we will cover, how to effectively grow your business by thinking outside the box, looking at opportunities that the Hispanic market brings to your business and how to appeal to that audience. It's not the same across different audiences as it is with general market. Definitely authenticity is the name of the game, and just really overcoming some of the, predisposed notions or just some of the differences that we have as you know, as different cultures, we tend to do business, even though we may be doing business in English, we tend to do business just a little bit differently. And also, I'll share some of the, um, you know, perhaps things we've discovered through our trajectory that have helped us make our clients and make ourselves successful in working in this space. To begin with, we see that, you know, Hispanic marketing, I'm sorry, that the Hispanic market has significantly grown, and continues to grow in its trajectory, you know, potentially reaching about 55.7 billion dollars in spend by, you know, 2022. So if we think about it, that's about a year and a half that that's going to happen, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. We see that, you know, Phoenix alone contributes to about $36 billion that are coming directly from the Hispanic community. So it's definitely there. Our Hispanic community is you know, younger and definitely growing. So when we look at the map, where you see black is, you know, where you have a higher density of Hispanic concentration. So every year, it's funny because we've been studying these maps, you know, probably since the last 10 years, and we have just seen the, you know, the consistent growth, even though it's, you know, tapering off a little bit, the growth is still palpable enough that you can definitely tell, you know, our communities are growing very fast and, you know, definitely uh, incorporating themselves into our culture, into our American culture. Um, One of the things that I wanted to mention before I go any further, all of this research has been provided by Univision and Telemundo. We work very closely with them, planning, you know, campaigns for different clients. So um, all of the research that you will see here today is, you know, primarily either Nielsen, Scarborough, and different sources, but provided to me by Univision and Telemundo any given times when we're presenting in front of our clients. So this is information that is current and that you can that is very reliable for all of us. So when we look at the profile of the Phoenix Latino or Phoenix Hispanic, excuse me, sorry about that. The market is a young market. This is definitely a market that is in the accumulation stage of their life. In the brand, you know, that this is in their brand loyalty development stage of life. When you see that they're going to be in between the ages of 18 through 34, compared, you know, to, you know, other general market where the average age is going to be around 40. Um, Hispanics start their lives per se a little bit earlier than general market, where they, you know, they get married, they start having children much younger than traditionally general market does. With the Hispanic community, one of the things that is often overlooked is the fact that you have homes that have multiple earning streams. So in essence, you do have more, and I don't like to use the word disposable income because I don't think any of us are disposing our income, but more, you know, more income to be able to, you know, get the services and products that you need, right? To support a household of, you know, not just mom, dad, and a couple of kids, but it's probably mom, dad, uncle, grandma, and, you know, a couple cousins, for example. And the adults, most of them are working, provide, you know, and cooperating into the family budget. Everybody will have the ability to spend outside of, you know, just paying the bill, right? So that is actually a key component that I really challenge everybody to look into, because when you're looking at you know, demographic information, household income information, marketers are often dissuaded from just seeing, you know, oh well, you know, traditionally Hispanics will make 35,000 plus, or they will make 50,000 plus, and that's not within my, target income benchmarks or whatnot. I strongly, strongly recommend that you consider the fact that these are households with multiple earning streams that may not be always, reported, right? You do have more children in the household. So the definitely the future of our community, especially here in Arizona and the Phoenix market, is very Latino because since we have a lot more kids under the age of 17, and these kids are very quickly going through our system through high school. We are seeing that your Hispanic market here in Phoenix is not necessarily, as traditionally was thought, your first generation market is more your second and third generation market that is becoming the decision makers. These are people that were, perhaps even born here in the United States. They have the, similar abilities than the general market in terms of resources, information. Plus, these are people that have grown up with digital in their lives. It's, just as comfortable as is grabbing a cup of milk from the fridge. They truly live in two worlds where they go back seamlessly between general market media, Hispanic media, and they live somewhere in the middle. Yet the one thing that, basically sets us apart is the very close ties to our culture. We still gravitate to that comfort that our culture brings us. And we'll build on that a little bit more. But lastly, employment. I mean, this is a market full of people that are ready to work, that are, looking to contribute. And again, they're in the accumulation stage of their lives. So we need stuff. We need education. We need services. We're constantly looking for ways to, evolve as a community. So when you look at, those people that are working and what that looks like, we see here that when you compare Hispanic market versus non-Hispanic market, we have a lot of different, differences, but at the same time, we're more alike. But we do have a lot more people in the workforce that are of Hispanic origin. So we have about 49% of the Hispanic community employed. And then the not employed, I always like to look at the not employed and why, because a lot of these people are going to be your homemakers. They're going to be your stay-at-home moms that are raising kids. So once these kids are grown, a lot of these people will join the workforce, as opposed to in general market, the reason why some of these people are not working is because they're retired. They have completed their cycle over here versus, here they're barely starting their cycle, right? So the opportunity for, future business is to be able to engage with the Hispanic community. We do see that, for example, when you look at the types of jobs, again, we're getting, there are a lot of preconceived notions about, what type of jobs Hispanics will do. Yes, we do have a very, strong blue collar type of employment as a community, but white collar types of professions are very quickly emerging. And as we, are getting through the generations, second, third generation, we have more access to education, more opportunity to perhaps, get better jobs. That balance is shifting where, we were very close to going to a 50-50, which is, ideally something that, is what we want, right? We want diversity in the workforce. So when we say, there's billions of dollars in opportunity, and what is it, that that these people are actually, buying. We see that, we have the categories such as, shelter, food, at home and away from home. We like to spend a lot of money on food. We have a lot of people, a lot of mouths to feed, right? Plus, we really like our food. Healthcare is also another area where there's a lot of opportunity. Utilities and entertainment, vehicles and quick service restaurants, for example. And we go into clothing and other types of expenses. But I mean, primarily, you see that the spending opportunity is there. I mean, the opportunity is there because Hispanics are spending their money. It's just a matter of who's able to get to them and build a relationship, with us. When we look at, we're starting to get more into, okay, so how do we do that, right? We want to basically know what our market and our community looks like. So as opposed to, the belief for many brands that, okay, we, either they all speak English by now or they all speak Spanish still, it's actually, we're a very bilingual and bicultural community. We, like I mentioned before, we live in two worlds and we, cross over seamlessly. We don't even notice it. I find it in my home, for example, I have two children, 15 and 8, and they are both bilingual because we speak Spanish in the home. We watch, Hispanic TV. We make it a point to make sure that we build their culture, their bicultural beings based on the foundation of the, Hispanic traditions and just general things that I bring to the table. We truly embrace that. And I'm not the exception. I'm more the rule now in terms of how Hispanic families are developing. There was like a revolution in the way Hispanic families developed. I would say probably in the early 2000s when so I went to college at ASU for multicultural education. So a lot of this information comes even from that. And one of the key components, and it was almost like a revolutionary concept at the time, was the fact that families needed to change the way they were teaching their children about culture, because prior to then, many families, in order to fit in, they would basically try to erase the Hispanic out of their kids, right? They would just say, no, don't speak Spanish, don't, you don't want to stand out. So in the early 2000s, that shifted significantly, and it was basically saying, no, you have to embrace who you are, you have to embrace your roots, and you have to embrace, in order to build a scaffold of who you're going to become in the future. So I think that has resonated a lot with families, 20 years later, where now we see that in order to become a better you have to embrace who you are at the root, right? So we see it here reflected with language. We still see that there is a strong Spanish-only community, but a lot of us 65% of us are going to be bilingual, where we're still keeping some of those roots and some of that, building that scaffold to be able to live in literally two worlds. But did you know that, 97% of Hispanics will, kind of like my house, right? I come home, I turn on Spanish TV, and it's comfortable, right? To hear something that I know the cultural nuances to. Even though I've been living in this country for over 20 years, I still sometimes find myself not really understanding either innuendo or, just things that I wasn't exposed to as a child. So when I watch my Hispanic media, it's like, oh, I get it. Even the tone or different things that might be happening that I perceive. But as you can see right now, outside of the home, well, I'm still at home, but right now I'm technically at work, right? Outside of the home, I speak English. I do business in English. But that is just the change that I go through in order to be able to accommodate, those around me. So again, I'm not the exception, I'm the rule. About 81% of our, for example, Spanish language TV viewers will do exactly the same thing as I'm doing today. I do business in English, yet my attachments are still with companies that will understand me as a person, right? With all of my cultural background, and who embrace that, who say, I want to build a relationship with you based on who you are, not based on what I want. So how do we do that? That's the billion-dollar question. So first of all, we want to get to know our audience. We want to make sure that we address people in Hispanic communities. There's something very important that is often overlooked, and that is tone and just grammatical sense. A lot of companies will just translate literally without, they translate words, not concepts, not context, and that will basically put a huge, it will deter. For example, someone like me will go, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. What are you trying to say? And then when I try to, it distracts me from the message that you're trying to send to me, when it doesn't make sense to me as a Hispanic of Mexican descent. So those are, some of the different nuances that we have to be conscious of when we're talking, through our advertising. Is who is my target audience? For example, here in Arizona, we have about 80+% of the Hispanic population of Mexican descent. So we need to, be conscious of that the wording and the just, basic communication is going to be different than how you would speak to somebody from South and Central America or Cuba, things like that. Excuse me. So then we have the different ways that people identify as Hispanic. I mean, we've been hearing a lot about the, Latinx concept and how it has become more, popular with the younger generations. And I do think eventually it'll start growing more on people. I will tell you that when I first heard the Latinx concept, it took me back a little bit. I didn't quite embrace it from the beginning, and it took a lot of research and understanding to see, what it really meant for me to adopt it, and for me to say, okay, I understand what you're trying to do, and I can respect that. But, when you have the more traditional Hispanic, perhaps it's not in Hispanic media and it's not going to take the time to do a lot of research. We see here, for example, that it's still a term that people are still struggling with to adapt and embrace, right? So what does it take to succeed in Hispanic marketing? I wholeheartedly believe, and then again, I go back to all of these key points are based on things that I've seen through my career. And I have seen many eager marketing experts tell their CEO, we're going after Hispanic. And CEO goes, okay, that sounds muy bueno, right? And then nothing else changes. The business is not basically set up to be able to do business with the Hispanic community. There are, different racial biases and preconceived notions. And I'll give you one example. One time I was driving with a client down Roosevelt in downtown Phoenix, and the comment was, we were talking about zip code targeting Hispanics, and the comment was, well, we don't want to target this because these people have no money. Again, it's like, well, you know, we want to make sure that, you know, we share the information with people that, you know, it's about understanding the community and, you know, not just letting our preconceived notions about the market kind of take over. You know, depending on the industry, sometimes it takes the right staff accommodations to ensure a great experience. You know, not because somebody speaks Spanish, is that person going to be able to build a relationship with your potential new customer? Again, there has to be that rapport, that common, you know, willingness to reach out to somebody that perhaps maybe even be afraid of doing business with you, because that's another thing that needs to be considered, is the fact that, you know, sometimes, you know, people think, oh, well, I see it a lot, for example, in the automotive industry, where Hispanics are afraid to go to the big auto dealerships because they think they're going to be overlooked. They think that they're not going to be taken seriously. So that's why they prefer going to a buy here, pay here lot, because it's a lot more, you know, per se engaging. They just feel more comfortable there. So what does that say about us as marketers? Is like, we really need to reach across the table and say, you're welcome here. We appreciate your business, and we will, you know, go above and beyond to serve you just like anybody else. It takes time. This is not a short, you know, this is not a get rich quick approach. This is not a, I'm going to put a commercial on Telemundo and by next week, I'm going to, you know, start getting all of these phone calls. It takes time, and it takes, you know, resources that are designed for longevity. I strongly recommend my clients that they think about, you know, 6 month to a year campaigns, because it's like opening your business for the first time. I mean, unless you're a really, really large, well-recognized brand across the market, you're appealing to a brand new audience. That takes time, and that takes patience, that takes trial and error. So we want to make sure that, you know, the mentality going into this is a adjust and overcome kind of mentality, because you are really working at a 360-degree approach per se, in not only working internally with, you know, the client facing or the customer facing people, also, and I'll give you an example. I'm better at describing my thoughts with examples. I have worked with a large dental company in the market, you know, multiple 10+ locations in the market, and who only specialize in doing business with the Hispanic community. That's who they appeal to, and that's who they go after. So they've had to adjust their business model to the way the community keeps their appointments, because that's very different than general market. With the Hispanic market, you have an ad, person calls, make an appointment, you call them back to confirm the appointment, and they don't show up. That's very common. But what happens is, if you can actually have a system where, you know, the people are actually called back even the same day to be able to confirm that appointment yet again, the likelihood of them showing up is actually, again, much greater. Why? Because they feel that personal attention. It's not, oh, well, I forgot, sorry, no. No, it's like, I'm counting on you to show up. You matter to me. Every single one of you is, you know, we're counting on you to come in. So once they made those changes to their appointment system, then they were really able to to make sure that everybody showed up to their appointment. Budgeting, I think I talked about it briefly, but definitely setting reasonable KPIs and goals that are, more focused on long-term will, you will see results initially, but a lot of times what I have seen, again, is more internal issues than external response. So making sure that internally you are set up to serve a new audience. And trial and error, maybe testing, learning from the things that didn't work and continuing to, thriving with the things that work. Working with experts. This is also something that I have seen multiple times with my clients trying to appeal to the Hispanic audience, is that, I'm there with all of this research, and then I get that, no. Let me call Juan from accounting. He knows. Like, oh, let's make sure that you're always working with, Telemundo, Univision can do a great job of providing you information. Agencies like mine can do a great job, and, or if nothing else, do your own research. But a lot of times when we bring somebody in, may not be the target audience that we're looking for. They may not have the habits that, for the people that we're looking to attract. So it can almost work against you, because then you start building campaigns based on someone's opinion instead of research and knowledge, right? And lastly is, I made the comment about the dentist. But, also another thing that we want to do just with general market, not because they're Hispanic, they're all my target customers. We want to make sure, that I did ask a dentist one day, so who's your target audience? And he said, everyone with teeth. And I said, oh, okay, well, let's try to narrow that down just a little bit. And, we want to make sure that we look at all of the different components and start building personas to really streamline our marketing efforts like we would on in general market. So we have so many different ways to narrow and really reach those that are going to be our niche within the Hispanic market, niche within a niche. That is how we find, the best result, because then we just start replicating and what's working and making it more and more globally to attract the right kind of customers. I do work a lot with the local concept, which is we start small. Once we, determine basically what is giving us the results that we're looking for, then we take it more to a global approach, and then we replicate it in multiple markets. So when you think about, what we do, who is Maria and her multicultural team, is we are actually who we market to. It's in our blood. I make sure that every single person that works in my team, with the exception of one or two, I have bicultural people, just because we bring in a combination of different experiences and knowledge that are, you can't just find in a book, right? We really, I'm sorry?
Your truck to go to Ernie's. Sure. Homework and just hang out there for a second.
Okay. Definitely, we were founded on the premise of being able to create campaigns that enable our customers to engage with their target audience. So we're only as good as the work that we're doing for you. And we pride ourselves on, helping brands being able to penetrate the Latino market, not only for profit, but because a lot of times our community needs the services that your companies are offering. It's something that that will help our community grow. So, we have been blessed with the ability to translate not only, just verbiage, but concepts, context. And I think it's easier said than done sometimes. I'm working right now on a campaign right now. And we're like racking our brains going, okay, how do we translate this? It sounds really cool in English, but when we translate it directly into Spanish, it doesn't sound that great, right? So one of the things that we lead with is the fact that, you know, we have qualities that cannot be taught. And everybody that works in my team, we're a team of over 10 people at this point, is that we all lead with passion, with tenacity, you know, with common sense, and definitely, you know, with a sense of humor. We want to know that, you know, what we do is fun. We actually help people achieve their dreams. So, you know, businesses reach, you know, different people to grow. So lastly, I don't know if I'm actually going over in time, so I'm trying to rush a little bit. This is a process that we, you know, implement when we're looking at Hispanic, you know, basically penetrating a Hispanic audience, is we first want to immerse, and these are these 5 steps. A lot of companies, what you see them doing is focusing on the last 2, and that's a lot of times why they may fail, right? Because we really need to immerse into the community. You know, doing focus groups, doing things that are actually going to, you know, sometimes even going shopping at Ranch Market and really taking a look at the people. You know, sit somewhere where you're able to see Hispanic families interact. Pre-COVID, it was easier because I actually used to go on Sunday mornings to Ranch Market to the kitchen, and just sit there and, you know, have breakfast there. And what I often found were families of about 6 to 8 people going to have breakfast there. And pretty much, you know, as a whole, they would have 2 or 3 iPads, everybody on their phone, everybody talking while eating on their phone, and just a lot of exchange, a lot of, you know, really good data to be able to say, okay, this is what my target audience looks like, right? Tangibly. So we want to, you know, also incorporate into the community. A lot of times what I see is that we focus more on what our brand is. It's all about me, me, me. And really being able to make it them, 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 or you, you, you. Whereas we incorporate our look and feel, what's going to feel familiar and close to, you know, focusing on the things that we have in common per se, as human beings, and just bringing it home, making it feel comfortable again. The connection is, you know, using the power of the human element again, connect face to face with our community. A lot of campaigns that I see, a lot of times they lack that, you know, that connection, that one-on-one attention. And again, pre-COVID times, it was a lot easier to do through festivals, through experiential marketing and things like that. But that will come back eventually. I mean, it's not like you have to run and do it today, but it is a very important component. A lot of people, again, they see, they let their cultural biases kind of say, well, that's not for us. Well, that's a lot of where connections are made. And even if it's, you know, somebody, a street marketer, for example, that specializes in engaging people, they will make a lasting impression for your company and for your brand. And you will literally hear it on the phone. Yeah, I met, you know, Rosa at the XYZ festival, and she told me to call you. You know, it will be that direct and tangible. Lastly, you know, value proposition. You know, we are value driven people. We want, you know, a good price. We want a good experience, and we have to, you know, put it forth. It's a lot of times when we are approached by different brands, we, you know, we do say, okay, what's in it for me? That it's part of our culture. We want to get the best bang for the buck. And lastly, relationship building. That is so important, because once you've acquired a new customer, a new Hispanic customer, just, with like any other customer, it's so important to keep that relationship alive. One of the things that, people overlook a lot of times is that Hispanics have much larger social networks. So if you do something right, 5, 10 people will hear about it. But if you do something wrong, 25 people will hear about it. So and we are always together. We shop together. We, go to the doctor together. Every important milestone in our lives, we have our family right there in that moment with us. So we want to make sure that, we build a relationship with the entire family, with the entire community as a brand, whether it's through philanthropy or whether it's, just, direct messaging, is reassuring this community that they are welcome, right? So with that, I can conclude my presentation today. I am Maria Lipp. Here's my contact information if you have any questions or anything like that I can help you with. Again, we're an open book. We want to make sure that, those that are looking to serve the Hispanic community see it as service, and see it as a way to grow their businesses through servant leadership.
Woohoo! Excellent, Maria. Thank you so very much for all this great content. We have a few questions that we hope that you will be able to answer for us. So the first question we have is, with the second and third generation of Hispanic market, are they mostly bilingual, it said, and with them living in between two worlds, is the Hispanic culture more important to them, like it is maybe to their parents, in regards to how companies market to them?
Yes, in being able to do business with companies that recognize and respect their Hispanic background, we're able to make an emotional connection with them as a brand. Because then, for example, when I see messaging, well written and well thought of, where I see that it took the time to actually speak to me in the way that I can, recognize, that makes a lasting impression. I feel embraced. And even though I am first generation Hispanic, I behave more like a second and third generation Hispanic because, I'm bilingual, bicultural. I'm married to a boy from Nebraska. So, my children's life is highly bicultural, right? So same with, for example, I see it with my 15-year-old, where when he hears things that that are resonating, like, for example, I hate this example, la chancla, right? Now it became more widely used as a joke on mothers, that are overbearing mothers, but he recognizes that and he says, oh, they're making fun of la chancla. There's a connection there because he knows what that's about. And he sees that somebody else is, embracing that, reaching out to make a direct connection based on a cultural concept.
Awesome. And then you were mentioning how it's really good to follow up to confirm a meeting, that they're more likely to actually come to a meeting the more you give them that personal connection. And so how does this demographic prefer to be followed up with? Would it be a phone call, a text message, an email? What would be the best form to communicate? Sorry, what was that?
All of the above. I think text messaging is actually very effective, and a phone call. I really do think email, I don't think so much. It's hit or miss with email. Sometimes it depends on the sub demo that you're working with. But primarily, I know for a fact that when I'm called, even like the day of my appointment, I'm like, oh, rat. They did notice, If I wasn't planning on attending, it's funny, my hairdresser does that. And in the day of my appointment, it's like, okay, we're counting on you that you're going to be here, right? It's like, no, I can't today. okay, next time it'll be a $25 fee. And, you know, they're holding me accountable. It's a respect thing. But if, for example, I make an appointment, you know, 3 months from now, or 2 weeks from now, or even next week, my life is, you know, so hectic that, you know, other things start becoming a priority, right? So we want to stay top of mind. We want to become, you know, be, again, a priority. There's a reason why you made an appointment with me. It's a priority. Let me remind you that it's still a priority.
Awesome. And so that kind of leads into another question about the frequency then. You know, you mentioned, you know, the day of the appointment. What would be an appropriate frequency of following up without someone feeling like, oh my goodness, you're just, you know, nonstop contacting me?
I would say, you know, traditionally I see the way these companies that I mentioned follow up. I'm not going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give you information based on what I've seen that works. So I made the appointment, say, 2 weeks ago. And I'm giving you an exact example, actually. I made the appointment 2 weeks ago. 3 days before my appointment, I received a reminder. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I had forgotten I had this appointment. And then the day of, I received, actually today, the appointment is today at 2:45. This morning, I received a text. Just making sure, you know, you're ready, all set to go for your appointment at 2:45, XYZ. You know, reply C to cancel. And even to that point, I still had an opportunity to cancel. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I know I have this appointment today. So I do think that perhaps 3 times might be helpful. But I don't think, like, this market is different than general market in that sense. A lot of people would be like, okay, stop harassing me. I'll be there, right? Here it's like, oh, I forgot, even if it's 3 days before. So, you know, it's just a little, one of those cultural nuances that we have. And everybody is like that. I mean, you know, my mother will make an appointment 3 months and she puts it in her calendar and counts the days and the minutes to show up, you know, but, you know, generalizing 3 times would be the best.
Excellent. And I believe it was like slide 3 or so when you showed the workforce. Has that changed at all since COVID?
You know, the data is obviously, you know, it's both census and Scarborough data. So I'm sure there is a shift. The thing is that we all still need to work and survive, right? So as opportunities, you know, come up, the community will still reflect, you know, who they are. We have much younger, if we go back, let me see if I can go back. But when we look at, you know, yes, of course there will be a shift, but here's something that we can't change, is the fact that a lot of, you know, people are retired, for example, that we, you know, that once they're retired, or if they go back to work after retirement, it's a smaller percentage. So yes, it will shift, and I'm very curious to see this data once it's updated, but this is pre-COVID data.
Okay, excellent. And then the last little question I saw we had come through is, who created the term Latinx? Where did that term originate from?
You know what? I have that in my research, but I don't have it top of mind. I can get back to, you know, it's an inclusive term. It's, you know, to include pretty much everybody of Latin origin. Hispanic implies Spanish origin. So there's a little bit of a, you know, back and forth on that, but it's actually been, it's a recognized term. It gained most of its traction with social media and the younger generations. So that's why I do think, you know, it will gain traction, is, you know, just the old dinosaurs like me are still kind of going, that's, so I can definitely email you the answer to that. I just
Okay.
don't know at top of my head.
We'll include it in
Wonderful.
the presentation
Yeah.
when we get it to them. Right.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Maria. Does anyone else have any additional questions that they want to ask her at this time? And, if after the day goes and you go, oh my goodness, I have so many other questions, feel free to email Anna. She'll definitely get in touch with Maria. And then Maria, I know you already said you'd be wonderful and share more content with us. And so as you're going about your day, questions pop up, please do not hesitate to ask them.
I had a couple, just really quick, Maria. Are there companies who are doing a good job of marketing to Hispanics that you would use as examples for branding, either in Arizona or nationally? And if so, what things are they doing? Like, what are they doing different?
Let's see. Well, I would say, for example,
Maybe we should, look at your client list.
well, are you looking for more local? Because there is a difference that sometimes comes into play as to what's considered a good job. Because if you're looking at local, regional, or national, right? So national, one of the things that I recommend is, even if you're a national brand, to use the localization concept to make it feel unique, even though it's a national campaign. It's still targeted in a way that is going to resonate with the region that you're targeting. And I'll tell you this, a lot of times, and I'll answer directly, like, what companies I like in a minute. But one of the things that I notice all the time is the fact that voicing and accents, tones are very, underestimated. And that's what communicates more sometimes as to who it is that is speaking to me. A lot of times when I hear, the Cuban accent in voiceovers, when I see words that don't necessarily resonate with my, Mexican origin, it's a distraction. Like, what we want with our advertising is to mitigate the risk for distraction as much as possible, because our commercials are competing with pretty much everything out here. So we want people to actually be attracted so that they ignore all of this 30 seconds, listen to us, right? Or at least the first 6 seconds. So those are the things that are within our control. I recommend every brand out there to, just take that little extra step, one step, to actually be, culturally relevant to the audience, not just do a one size fits all. Oh, they all speak Spanish, they'll get it. That is actually a big turnoff. So companies that are doing a good job, I think the Diamondbacks are doing a great job. Definitely they have been able to replicate how the community speaks, with their Los D-backs, because our community, being highly bicultural, bilingual, there is a lot of language mixing, Spanglish, a lot of Spanglish. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you craft your messaging in Spanglish, because at the same time that we use Spanglish, we're very snobby about our grammar and just the way we're spoken to from brands. We want to make sure that that the messages sound professional enough, attractive enough, and that you still incorporate a little bit of that community component that for example, here in Phoenix is very common for people to Spanglicize their speech. So I would say take a look at what the Diamondbacks are doing. I think they're doing a good job with their just with their entire strategy for reaching the Hispanic market.
Right.
And then my second question, thank you, that helps a lot. Second question was about recruiting. So I work in construction. We work with a lot of subcontractors, a lot of hiring, but it is blue collar. And I sense a bias kind of against blue collar work, you know, among parents and people, you know, it's like, that's not the field you want your kids to get into, but it's also, hey, it's very lucrative and you can do really well in it. How to kind of overcome a possible bias with a blue collar line of work in our marketing, or just how to do that better, right?
I think that kind of goes into your targeting, and, you know, finding that niche within your niche is not, you know, because not everybody wants their kid to be, you know, a scholar. A lot of our, you know, community has built, you know, very fruitful lives on their you know, construction jobs and subcontracting jobs. So I think more than anything, if the focus is on the, you know, not, it's kind of, I use dentists a lot for some reason as examples, but it's kind of like, you know, the dentist, where you're not focusing on open mouths and, you know, people in your teeth. You're focusing on the beautiful smile. You're focusing on the, you know, possibilities that that beautiful smile is going to bring you. It's almost the same with something like this, where we're not going to focus on the guy hammering. We're going to focus on the, you know, the quality of life that his job can bring. I think that would be a good way to, you know, attract, you know, more people that perhaps might be like, oh, well, it's blue collar, you know, I don't know.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the questions, everybody. And thank you, Maria. This was really wonderful information, all packed into an hour. And Maria has really hammered home to me some key takeaways, and Ben's two questions just kind of touched on it. But small nuances matter in this market. Okay, it's not simply a Google Translate. Maria's 5-step formula kind of showed that you really need to be immersed in all 5 of the steps and not just 2 of the 5 steps. And then things to remember about this market: they're very digitally inclined, even more so than the general market. And the reach that the Hispanic market has. Really excellent point today, Maria, that usually the Hispanic market has a much larger market. So when things go well or not well, it's going to be a big group of people that hear about it. Thank you, Maria, very much. As I said, everybody, we will get the presentation and the video to you. I wanted to real quick remind everybody, September 10th is our next event. It's a Thursday, 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We're having a returning speaker, Matt Lerman. He will be speaking on how to revive your customer connection. He is a really great speaker and expert on audience and target audience. It's already been a solid 3 years since we've had him speak. So hopefully we will see you. Keep an eye out on our website. It's not quite up yet, but amaphoenix.org, and keep checking your emails. And then just quickly take a look. We've got 3 other events booked and coming up in September and October. And then once again, just would like to thank our sponsors, and in particular right now, Taylor Wellman from Financial Potion. For your video needs, please give her a call. And one of our audience members who is one of our sponsors, Eileen Burrick from Burrick Communication Design. So thank you. And we thank our supporters once again. And we hope to see you again very soon, hopefully on September 10th, but have a nice rest of the afternoon, everyone. And thank you for attending.